Out in the middle of the frozen Yukon, a couple of hardened explorers saw something that, by all accounts, shouldn't exist. Not a bear, not a moose, not even some oversized beaver belly flopping down a hill in the snow. No. What they saw was way bigger, way weirder, and way more prehistoric. This wasn't some blurry shape in the woods or a weird-ass sound echoing through the trees. This was a goddamn dinosaur, 50 feet long, covered in fur, leaving massive, bone-chilling tracks in the snow like it stomped straight out of the damn Jurassic and into the icy wilds of Canada. And the story didn't come from some internet rando with a blurry cell phone pic either. It came from a French writer and a seasoned Klondike prospector, both of whom swore up and down that what they saw was real. Now, yeah, you could say they were drunk. You could say they were bullshitting for attention. But their account got published, reprinted, and retold for over a century, and it's got just enough creepy detail to make you reach for the toilet paper before laughing it off. So what the hell did they see out there in the snow-covered wild? Did explorers in the Canadian wilderness really see a living dinosaur with their own eyes? Hang tight. This is gonna blow your mind. People have been straight up obsessed with dinosaurs ever since we realized they existed. From fossil discoveries that likely inspired dragon legends to the endless hype around Jurassic Park, dinos have always fascinated us. Pretty much every kid hits that dinosaur phase where they know every damn name, diet, and era these prehistoric badasses lived in. It's wired into us. Maybe because we're amazed they were real, or maybe we're just fucking glad they're not around to eat our asses. Back in the late 1800s, up in the Canadian Yukon, a crazy-ass tale popped up, the Partridge Creek Monster. This thing was said to be a living dinosaur, and not just any dinosaur. It looked just like a Ceratosaurus. Picture a beefy, carnivorous dino with a big horn on its snout like a rhino, and covered in bristly hair like a wild boar. Its skin was gray-black, covered in mud, and it left a print over 2 feet deep. They guessed it was about 50 feet long, 18 feet tall at the spine, with a tail that could wreck your whole house. Oh, and it could roar louder than your sister does during sex. Of course, this wasn't the only dino madness happening at the time. The 1800s were dino obsessed. Beyond the science, people started dreaming up entire lost worlds where dinosaurs still lurked around. Jules Verne dropped Journey to the Center of the Earth in 1864, featuring a whole-ass underground ocean full of prehistoric sea monsters. Then there was James DeMille's A Strange Manuscript Found in a Copper Cylinder, where Antarctica, yes, Antarctica, was hiding a tropical dino playground. Shit got even weirder. In 1898, C.J. Cutcliffe Hine wrote The Lizard about some British dude fighting a cave dinosaur. A year later, Warden Alan Curtis released The Monster of Lake Lemaitre, where a doctor shoves a human brain into a goddamn plesiosaur. And in 1912, Arthur Conan Doyle, yeah, the Sherlock Holmes guy, gave us The Lost World, where pterodactyls still fly around in the jungle of South America. Victorian imagination was fucking running buck wild, man. Now, while all that dino craziness was gripping the nerdier side of society, the rest of the world was going absolutely feral over something else: ivory. Thanks to the Industrial Revolution and a bunch of revolts and political shakeups, a brand new middle class was rolling in the dough. These folks weren't exactly royalty, but they had enough cash to flex. And one of the hottest status symbols? Pianos, or pianofortes as they were called. Fancy-ass pianos with shiny white keys that were made from ivory. Suddenly, every proper lady had to learn to play piano like it was some kind of upper-class mating ritual. And the ivory trade went fucking nuts. To get that much ivory, they were tearing through elephant populations across Africa. But once that got a little messy and people started running out of easy elephant tusks, some clever fur traders up north figured out a workaround: woolly mammoths. Those shaggy bastards had been dead for thousands of years, but their tusks were still chilling in the permafrost all across Siberia, Alaska, and the Yukon. So fur traders started buying mammoth ivory from native folks instead of just pelts. Turns out there were way more tusks laying around than you'd expect, buried in riverbanks, sticking out of cliffs, frozen in the damn ground. Sometimes it wasn't just tusks. Every now and then, someone would stumble across a frozen mammoth corpse. In 1806, a Russian zoologist named Adams found one on the banks of the Lena River with its eyeball still intact. They had to get 10 guys to lug just part of its skin. In 1848, a missionary claimed he found one with twigs still in its mouth. And in 1898, a prospector in the Yukon found one encased in ice, though it basically disintegrated the second it hit air. Still, people were buzzing about it. These frozen mammoths started fueling a whole different type of rumor. What if some of them were still alive? That's right, just like the dinosaur stories, people started whispering about living woolly mammoths. In 1887, a fur trader said he bought a fresh-ass tusk from a native chief in Alaska who claimed he'd seen and killed a mammoth. The March 1893 issue of the Alaskan reported a Tahltan hunter seeing one in British Columbia. Then, in 1899, McClure's magazine dropped a story about a successful mammoth hunt in Alaska. Turned out to be total bullshit, but people ate it up anyway. All this set the stage for people to believe in the Partridge Creek monster. Between the frozen mammoths, the ivory boom, and the Victorian obsession with dinosaurs, a giant bristle-haired dino stomping around the Yukon didn't sound that crazy. It was like the perfect storm of sci-fi, greed, and frozen carcasses, making people question what the hell was still alive out there. So yeah, the Partridge Creek monster might sound like the fever dream of some frostbitten trapper, but in the context of the time, shit, people were ready to believe just about anything. Dinosaurs were the hot thing in both science and fiction. The ivory trade was out of control, and half the damn world was convinced prehistoric beasts were just chilling in the wilderness, waiting to be discovered. But then came the wild part, the moment some poor bastard looked out across the ice and actually saw the damn thing alive. Yeah, shit was about to get real. So, this isn't some fairy tale horse shit. That's how French writer Georges Dupuis kicks off his wild-ass tale, The Monster of Partridge Creek. He made it crystal fucking clear. This ain't fiction, and he's not out here trying to jerk anyone's chain. What he saw it with his own eyeballs. And according to him, it was a living goddamn dinosaur. Back in the early 1900s, Dupuis liked to hang around a place called McQuestion Post, up in the Yukon. His buddy, Father Pierre Lavigno, a French-Canadian Jesuit missionary, had a little cabin up there. And on this one particular morning, Dupuis sipping coffee on the porch, probably thinking about anything but prehistoric monsters, when he hears a whistle. Turns out, it's his old pal James Lewis Butler pulling up in a canoe flanked by two native guides. Butler had bailed on his San Francisco banking life back in 1897 to chase gold up in the Klondike, and Dupuis figured he was swinging by to brag about some shiny new nuggets he found. But nope, what Butler had to share was a whole other beast. Literally. A couple of days earlier, Butler had been crashing at some guy's cabin when he got invited on a moose hunt. They headed out to Partridge Creek, where animals usually gathered at this mineral lick. And just when they were about to line up a few shots on some big-ass moose, all hell broke loose. One of the bulls let out a scream and took off into the woods, dragging the others with him like a bra snapping off on prom night. Naturally, the dudes decided to check out what the hell scared the shit out of them. And what they found? There in the mud was a huge-ass imprint, 30 feet long, 12 feet wide, and 2 feet deep. Something massive had laid down there. Its paws, if you could even call them that, left prints 5 feet long and nearly 3 feet wide, with claws a foot long, all sunk deep in the muck. And if that wasn't enough, there was a tail print, 10 feet long and as fat as your mother-in-law. Oh, and I forgot to mention the giant pile of green dino shit they found in the middle of the trail. Yeah, it stank like rotted meat and scared the fuck out of the Indian guides. So these guys followed the tracks, 5 to 6 miles along Partridge Creek, until they hit a gulch where the trail just stops. No blood, no broken trees, no more prints. Like the bastard just poof, vanished into thin air. Butler tells Dupuis the whole story, and instead of calling bullshit, Dupuis' like, all right, fuck it, let's hunt this thing. They round up a hunting party. Father Lavigno, a grizzled miner named Tom Lemore, and 5 other local Clayoquot Indians. A Mountie and a courier hang back, laughing their asses off and thinking this whole thing's knuckin' futs. At the crack of dawn the next day, the crew paddled across the river and started trekking through the woods. It's a brutal, muddy, god-awful fuckiness. They search all day through thick brush, swamps, and up into the snow-capped mountains. No sign of the beast. That night, they set up camp on a cliff overlooking Partridge Creek. They're boiling tea, trying to warm up and not think about the goddamn thing they couldn't find, when they hear something. Stones clattering in the ravine below. Then a low, guttural roar that makes everyone go still. They crawl to the edge of the cliff, rifles shaking in their hands, and that's when they see it. Across the creek, this giant, gray-black nightmare lizard is trying to climb up the opposite slope. It's struggling to keep its footing, claws scraping rocks loose and sending boulders tumbling down the ravine. Dupuy says it was 50 feet long, 18 feet tall at the shoulder. It had a rhinoceros horn on its face, thick, bristly hide like a boar, and red slime dripping from its jaws like it had just torn something apart. Father Lavigno, who had clearly shit his pants at this point, muttered something about dinosaurs. In the French version of the tale, he identifies it as a ceratosaurus. Yeah, the spiky bastard with the horn, like something straight out of Jurassic Park. The thing stayed there for 10 solid minutes, just huffing and trying to scale the cliff. The hunters? Frozen. Not because it was cold, because they were scared shitless. Dupuy swears they weren't hallucinating, drunk, or dreaming. That fucking monster was real. Eventually, the creature gives up, lets out another blood-curdling roar, and bounds off on 2 legs, disappearing back into the Partridge Creek Valley. Dupuy and Butler were so shaken, they marched their puckered asses all the way to Dawson City and begged the Yukon commissioner to give them mules and 50 armed men to hunt the monster down and send it to hell. Nobody believed them. The Dawson Daily Nugget even called Dupuy a rival of Poe, basically treating the whole thing like some bullshit spooky bedtime story. But Dupuy never backed down. "We saw what we saw," he said. "It wasn't a dream, it wasn't a bear, and it sure as fuck wasn't moose tracks." So, just when you thought the giant-ass dino sighting was a one-off fever dream, hell no. In a letter dated New Year's Day, 1908, Father Lavigno wrote to Dupuy that he saw the monster again just a week earlier on Christmas Eve. And this time, the fucker wasn't just lumbering around, it was hauling ass across the frozen creek with a whole caribou clenched in its freaking jaws. Yeah, a caribou. According to the priest, 10 other members of his congregation saw it too. The thing was frost-covered like some killer ice beast, and its little demon eyes were glowing like hellfire in the twilight. Lavigno said it was clocking over 10 miles an hour across that icy terrain, which is wild considering the goddamn temperature was 49 degrees below zero. That's not just cold, that's balls sucked up into your abdomen cold. So what'd they do? The priest, a local chief, and his 2 sons followed the bastard. They tracked its prints for 2 miles all the way to Stewart River before the trail vanished under fresh snow. Just like that, the monster ghosted them again. Because apparently outrunning people with a caribou in your mouth and disappearing into a blizzard is just a normal Tuesday for this thing. Motivated by sensational articles about the beast, 29-year-old Hugh Grosvenor, the wealthy Duke of Westminster, planned a hunting trip in the Yukon Territory for the express purpose of bagging the monster of Partridge Creek. To prep for his upcoming adventure, the Duke chartered a German steamer at Hamburg and fitted it with a huge steel cage where he planned to hold the monster during transport. His plans were ultimately crushed in 1914 when World War I broke out. The Duke volunteered for combat duty and served with distinction in an armored car squadron on the front lines in Egypt. By the time the war was over, he had either forgotten about his Yukon expedition or had a change of heart and never rescheduled his trip to Stewart River. Alright, so let's talk about this wild-ass story and whether Dupuy was full of shit or if he actually believed he saw a goddamn dinosaur stomping around the Yukon. First off, the monster of Partridge Creek wasn't printed in some goofy pulp rag next to ads for x-ray glasses and vibrating belts. Nah, this thing showed up in the Strand magazine, right between Winston Churchill rambling about Uganda and a ghost story from Arthur Conan Doyle. The Strand didn't treat it like fiction either. They slapped it under the section called Stories, Strange and True, and even added a little preface swearing up and down that Dupuy was a respected writer whose good faith is beyond question. In other words, this dude's not crazy and we're dead serious about this story. And it didn't stop there. After the Strand and the French magazine Je sais tout ran it, the story blew the hell up. Newspapers all over North America picked it up and ran with it. Some even added shit, like claiming one of the guys, Tom Lemore, managed to snap 3 photos of the beast. And here's the kicker. They didn't run it in the funnies or the fiction section. Fuck no. They slid it right in the news, just like any other straight-laced headline about local politics or moose attacks. So yeah, this wasn't just a tall tale passed around a campfire like a joint. People, and we're talking editors, journalists, and a few scientists, thought there might be something real to this big fucking bastard. A lot of folks think Dupuy was just spinning a wild-ass yarn, like maybe this was supposed to be satire or some creative non-fiction crap that got taken way too seriously. There's no solid proof, no bones, no giant-ass footprints preserved in mud, not even one drunk miner who backed him up. Just Dupuy saying, "I saw a goddamn dinosaur. Trust me, bro." Maybe he was trying to go viral in 1908. Other folks figure it was probably a big-ass bear or a moose seen through snow, fog, or someone's frosted-up whiskey goggles. Toss in a little panic, some retelling over a campfire, and boom! You've got yourself a 50-foot dino beast with slime-dripping jaws and demon eyes. Nature can be weird as hell, and our brains love to fill in the spooky gaps. And then there's the shit got lost in translation theory. The story went from French to English, and somewhere along the line, maybe a few things got a little juiced up. Like maybe big animal turned into prehistoric monster, or it walked away, became it roared and vanished into a goddamn blizzard. Wouldn't be the first time a translator got a little too spicy with the details. So, could be a hoax, could be a moose, could be a broken game of telephone across languages, or maybe it was a real goddamn dinosaur. All right, now let's crack open the theories from the folks who think Dupuy saw a real dinosaur up there in the frozen-ass Yukon. Some people are all in on the idea that this wasn't just a freak coincidence. It was a real deal prehistoric holdout, like a rogue population of dinosaurs that never clocked out after the asteroid hit. Just like the shit people say about Mokele Mbembe in the Congo, which I did a video on not too long ago. I'll leave a link down in the distraction. You've got believers claiming these things didn't go extinct, they just went off grid. And if you're gonna hide out for a few million years, a frozen hellscape full of wolves, bears, and 0 people is a damn good place to do it. Now, here's a spicy one. Some cryptozoologists think this was a dinosaur, but with fur or feathers. Yeah, like a T-Rex in a winter coat. Science already says a bunch of dinos had feathers, so it's not totally out of left field. This would be similar to the woolly mammoth. If this thing evolved to survive the ice and snow, Maybe it looked less like a Jurassic Park monster and more like a hairy-ass raptor stomping around, pissed off and hungry. And look, the Yukon wilderness is no joke. We're talking millions of acres of rugged, untouched land. It's cold, empty, and about as off the map as Grandma's vibrator stash. A lot of folks say it's the perfect hiding spot for some massive, undiscovered creature, especially if it doesn't want to be found. So, what the fuck was the Partridge Creek monster? Was it a real goddamn dinosaur that somehow survived mass extinction by chilling in the Yukon like a prehistoric snow beast? Was Dupuy just a bored-ass rider chasing clout? Or maybe it was all one big frostbitten fever dream fueled by isolation. Too much moose meat and not enough sunlight. Who the hell knows? But what makes this story stick isn't just the monster, it's the timing. You had frozen mammoths getting dug up, ivory hunters swarm in the north, and Victorian weirdos jizzing their pants over dinosaurs. The whole world was practically begging for a story like this. And Dupuy, he fucking delivered. But here's the part that keeps clawing at the back of your brain. He never backed down. Not once. Not even when people laughed him off the goddamn map. He stuck to his guns until the end. And so did Father Lavigno, the missionary who saw it twice. You don't double down on a lie like that unless you're either batshit crazy or you're telling the goddamn truth. And hey, a giant bristle-haired murder lizard may really be out there. Maybe it's just biding its time, stomping around in some forgotten canyon while we scroll TikTok and pretend we've got nature all figured out. So next time you're out in the woods and the wind dies down just enough for you to hear something big moving through the trees, don't look. Don't fucking move. Because whatever's out there, it doesn't give a shit about your science, your logic, or your cell phone signal. It's been hiding out there for a long ass time, and it's still watching. If you enjoyed this video, tap that like button and subscribe. That way you won't miss out on more of my fucked up commentary. And besides, I really do appreciate it. So, the Partridge Creek Monster. Jesus Christ, what a ride. Is it a living dinosaur or something else? Let me know in the comments. And if you really want to do me a solid, click on that join button below the title and become part of my YouTube membership. For as little as $2.99, y'all can help me out more than you know. Until next time, y'all keep it real, keep it chill, and stay creepy! Catch you on the flip. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. You are the real beast.